This is Southern Cross News with Joe Palmer.
Good evening, everyone. Tasmanian salmon companies will have to adhere to new standards in Macquarie Harbour as the state environmental watchdog attempts to save the world-renowned area from significant degradation. Biomass limits will be dropped from 14,000 to 12,000 tonnes. The companies at the centre of the fish fight agree the change is necessary, but Environment Tasmania says the announcement isn't all it's cracked up to be.
A long-awaited decision and not one taken lightly. The Environmental Protection Authority releasing a draft determination erring on the side of caution. Director Wes Ford says he had considered social, economic and environmental impacts.
That I'm required to do by the law.
Scientific data suggests the harbour is under stress and may not be sustainable in the long term if the current levels of 14,000 tonnes are maintained or exceeded.
And I have assured the government that I'm cognisant of the issues associated with the World Heritage Area.
Tassal has been heavily criticised for its farming practices by both environmental campaigners and salmon industry competitors. Under request, it will be provided with a supplementary biomass allocation of about 4,000 tonnes, only if they trial a waste management system.
Fish waste is collected from under the pens within the water, essentially by putting a liner system under the cages to trap the fish faeces and the fish feed. Now these will have to be designed and approved and will be highly monitored.
The compromise means Tassal would avoid a $60 million loss associated with removing the smolt currently in the harbour to adhere with the new 12,000 tonne limit. Tassal says it will adaptively manage its fish stocks and will work with the EPA. But Environment Tasmania is outraged, saying it shouldn't go ahead and that this will allow Tassal to stock over 4,000 tonnes more than their current allocation.
There is absolutely no evidence to suggest that faecal mounds on top of a tarp will be any less damaging to oxygen levels in the harbour than faecal mounds on the sea floor.
The government's criticised the industry for its handling of the dispute, saying it's tarnishing the Tasmanian brand. But the dispute hasn't affected the share prices of Huon Aquaculture or Tassal, which have remained relatively stable during the turmoil.
Both companies are obviously trying to get the best outcome for shareholders, and we've seen that in recent weeks. But it certainly is a little unnerving for investors if there are continuing uncertainties around production.
Louise Hedger, Southern Cross News.
Labor leader Rebecca White has significantly narrowed the gap on Will Hodgman as Tasmania's preferred premier. The latest EMRS poll shows Mr Hodgman still in front at 42%, with Ms White just 3 points behind.
It's the first poll since Rebecca White became Labor leader, and today she was all too thrilled by the result.
This is the start. We'll build from here. There's a lot of work to do yet, and I'm well aware of that, but it's encouraging to see that people are listening to Labor and looking at us to see how we can deliver a better government for Tasmania.
The improvement a stark contrast to when Brian Greene was party leader. The poll not great for the Greens, falling 15%. Cassie O'Connor not too concerned.
There were always going to be a bounce for Labor and Beck White in the polls. We completely expected that. I'm not surprised by this poll result. There'll be other polls between now and election day, and then there'll be the big poll.
In Liberal heartland at AgFest, the Premier side by side with his ministers, eager to boast about the state's agriculture industry. His party remains favoured to retain government, Liberal support increasing by 4 points to 39%, with Labor at 34%. However, Ms White is confident her party can form a majority government.
My view is that Labor has as much chance of the Liberal Party of forming majority government at the next election. We all start from zero.
While the next state election isn't due until March next year, the state's upper house may be reshuffled. 3 divisions of the Legislative Council will be contested tomorrow. Launceston, Murchison and Rumney all up for grabs. Meanwhile, proposed changes to federal election boundaries have been released for public comment. Most notably, the proposal will see the municipalities of Dorset and Flinders moved from Bass to Lyons, reflecting population changes. West Tamar will be included in Bass and Latrobe will be in Braddon. Feedback on the proposal open until June the 2nd. Jessica Moran, Southern Cross News.
The state government has announced $2 million will be allocated in the upcoming budget to tackling Tasmania's weeds and protecting the state's agricultural industries from invasive species.
We need to do everything we can to ensure we've got the right supports and resources in place to protect Tasmania from the risk of pests, diseases and invasive species. It's an ongoing threat and we need to remain ever vigilant.
Labor agreeing Tasmania needs tougher biosecurity measures.
That any funding coming to the sector is ongoing and that it not just plugs the holes from the cuts the government made previously, but makes sure that we have a robust biosecurity sector going forward to cope with the growing growth, both in our tourism industry but also in our primary industry sector.
The funding will be allocated over 4 years. One of the biggest meetings ever held in Tasmania has roared to life. The Lions National Convention, attracting more than 1,000 delegates from across the globe. The conference generating a welcome $3.5 million boost to the local economy.
It's said to be one of the biggest conventions ever held in Tasmania, and today it's well underway. Tasmanian Lions clubs hosting the more than 1,000 lions for the National Convention at Rest Point, celebrating a milestone in the process, their centenary year.
There's 1,020 actually registered, but you know, with Tasmania, they sneak in the door, so we'd be well over the 1,020, which I believe is a record. Talking to the General Manager of Rest Point, we believe it, and Business Events Tasmania have classified it as the biggest event in Tasmania with conventions.
With the motto, "We serve," attendees are intent on developing plans to help communities in need over the coming years.
A lot of people in lines come down to these conferences really to find out what's going on a little bit more, to listen to the guest speakers, which are always very interesting, and to meet up with people they haven't seen for 12 months.
Visitors also keen to explore what the rest of the state has to offer. Delegates spending nearly $600 a day during their trip, providing a massive boost to the local economy.
I think the investment that comes in with something, a convention of this type, is over and in excess of about $3.5 million. Not all of that, of course, is at Rest Point, but it's for the whole economy of Tasmania, which I think is really important.
The conference runs until Monday, already being hailed a roaring success. Louise Hedger, Southern Cross News.
Mount Roland at Sheffield has been brightened by a spectacular light show. More than 2,000 people watched on as lasers projected onto the cliff face last night. The images were designed to represent stories from Australia's past. Organisers hope financial backing will make the festival an annual event. Firelight continues tonight and tomorrow. Traffic was delayed for 2 hours on the Brooker Highway this afternoon following the collision of 2 trucks just before midday. The crash occurred at the Lambton Avenue junction. There were no serious injuries. Tasmanian public school students are being given the opportunity to explore the magic of Maria Island as part of their school curriculum. The state's Parks and Wildlife Service is behind the educational push to ensure the island's heritage is not forgotten.
Maria Island has often been referred to as Tassie's hidden gem, and now a new program is offering the younger generation a chance to experience its beauty while still at school.
Maria Island was chosen as the place to host the camps because it's such an extraordinary place. Here's an opportunity for kids to step back in time about 200 years and see what it was like to live in a more natural environment.
Upper primary and secondary schools interested in taking part in the 3-day camp can contact the Parks and Wildlife Service. Lessons run by the group involve exploring geology and our convict history.
Just that connects in really well with the learning that we're doing in class, and yeah, I think it's just such a good chance to connect with different eras of Tasmania, including the Indigenous histories from before the British were here.
So we actually take them through a process where they become convicts, and at the end of the camp, if they're good enough, we give them the ticket of leave so they can leave the island.
And after 3 days with no electricity, most students are relieved to pack up and board the ferry home, taking with them lessons to last a lifetime. Jessie Gilmore, Southern Cross News.
A $700,000 upgrade to the St Leonard Sports Centre is nearly complete. Line markings were put down on the new polyurethane track today. Official certification by the International Association of Athletics Federations is expected within weeks. The track will then be ready for use.
Life of 10 to 15 years or so, so it's something that we need to keep up to date.
We're going to be able to do lots of competitions here. We'll be able to draw in crowds from other places.
It's the third time the track has been resurfaced since it was constructed in 1986. Well, perfect weather conditions have made for some very happy festival goers on day 2 of AgFest. With no rain or mud in sight, the state's agricultural sector is under the spotlight for all the right reasons.
It's Tasmania's largest agricultural event, and crowds this year were streaming in to Quercus Park, a welcome sight for stallholders.
We've been coming for probably over the last 10 years, but not every year, probably every second year. It's good.
From the latest machinery on land to in the water, there was something to interest everyone.
We've got a little bit of land, so we're just a bit of a hobby farmer and just checking a few different things out, camping gear and stuff like that, basically.
It's a great day out. We always come, just about every year.
Four-wheel driving experts took on the tough terrain in a hair-raising show, while others opted for a low-key kind of day. These engines gathered a crowd, some dating back generations. But as always, it was the animals that stole the show. This Kelpie, only 12 months old, dazzled festival goers with her poise and control, while these little guys proved quite the attraction.
These guys are 2 we're keeping. We sold all their siblings, so these 2 are a couple we brought along for the kids today to have a play and handle. So yeah, these are some we're going to keep.
AgFest will wrap up tomorrow afternoon. Jessica Moran, Southern Cross News.
The importance of driving to the conditions on Tasmanian roads is one of the key messages police are trying to reiterate as part of Road Safety Week. And CAP demonstrating what can happen when a vehicle crashes while travelling over the speed limit.
We've got a 2-star vehicle on display here. You can see that the structure is just deformed. It's not a good car to be in, and the difference between a 2-star and a 5-star vehicle could actually be the difference of life and death.
Every year on our roads, an average of 35 people die and an average of 264 serious injuries occur as a result of crashes. We believe that the majority of those fatalities and serious injuries are preventable.
Tasmania Police will run a number of road safety patrols next week to raise awareness of the fatal 5: seatbelts, speeding, inattention, drink and drug driving and fatigue. Now let's take a look at the day's business and finance with thanks to Tasplan, your local super fund. The Australian share market has declined for a 4th straight session, with steep falls in oil, iron ore and copper prices hurting energy companies and major miners. The ASX 200 index has dropped by 39.8 points. And a short time ago, the Australian dollar was trading at 73.88 US cents and 67.3 euro cents. The Adelaide Crows and North Melbourne have hit Hobart ahead of tomorrow's round 7 clash at Blunston Arena. While the Crows are undefeated on top of the ladder, the underdogs say they've got the home and away from home advantage.
Calm, cool and collected, the Crows touch down to a warm reception. Adelaide all set for its debut game at Blunston Arena tomorrow afternoon.
I'm looking forward to it. It's a good challenge. We enjoy getting on the road as a group. It brings the boys together.
Despite an undefeated start to the season, the assistant coach isn't leaving anything to chance, and he's not alone.
We still want to improve. Our footy this time of year is not going to win your final, so you've got to keep getting better. Other teams will get better, and we're in that boat as well.
The Kangaroos have played some pretty tough teams, so we never know. Never know. I never go expecting to win.
North Melbourne, arriving late this afternoon, were quick to acknowledge what they're up against.
When you come up against any team that's 6 and zip and, where we are in the season, we want to keep notching up wins. So it's a big challenge.
Both teams remaining coy on their game plan, but the Roos admit it's nice to have Jared Waite back on board.
We'll see the best of Jared tomorrow. He's pretty good fresh, so hopefully he can come down and make a big difference and help Big Ben Brown down there, who had a pretty good game last week.
Nearly 11,000 tickets sold for the clash, and if the rivalry of the fans flying in is anything to go by, it'll be worth the ticket.
Oh, Roos, absolutely, all the way. Yep. I've just been on the plane with them, absolutely. I'll be at the game supporting the Roos with the young kids, so it's going to be a great family day out.
Yes, we hope they give those kangaroos a bit of curry, I reckon.
Jessie Gilmore, Southern Cross News.
Following the Roos-Crows clash, the TSL showdown between Clarence and Glenorchy is taking place at KG5. The two undefeated rivals have named an all-star forward line, while over on the Twin Ovals, Lauderdale can sneak into the top 5 with a win over the Tigers.
Coming off a monster 20-goal win at West Park, Glenorchy brings in forward duo Connor Salter and Matt Dilger, but they won't be able to coast this week against a confident Clarence.
It was the biggest win in our club's history in 30 years of playing at West Park. So look, it was just a different ball game, but again, we didn't play 4 quarters.
Percentage separates the two sides. While Glenorchy is considered flag favourite, the Roos are sneaking under the radar. The side naming one change, but on-baller Jackson O'Brien remains absent after injuring his quad in round 3.
So we want to make sure that he's right in the back end of the year, so we might as well give him an extra week.
The reigning premiers expecting a close encounter against a side surpassing pre-season predictions.
It'll be a cracking game. Both teams really want to win. The rival will be back.
In the hours following, Lauderdale travelled to Twin Ovals to take on the Tigers. Two sides still trying to build momentum. Tigers captain Tim Peterson describing their last big loss as a reality check.
You know, being more accountable at stoppages, decision making, things like that. Just a lot of lessons we learned from the review.
Lauderdale started poorly this season. It took until last week to get a win on the board. The Bombers to wear an unfamiliar underdog tag for the fixture.
They've shown this year that they're more than competitive, and with 2 wins, so they're ahead of us on the ladder, so you certainly don't take them lightly.
Tom Johnson, Southern Cross News.
South Hobart and the Zebras are back and ready to rumble during their clash at Darcy Street on Sunday afternoon. The winner will break away from the competition and be a real challenger to Olympia, which currently leads the ladder with a new coach.
He buries the header.
Both teams want to play and both sets of players will be out there to win it. It's just of which team will make the least mistake and who will take their chances, basically.
They know pretty much everything they need to about us, and we know pretty much everything they do as well. But on the day, there's certain individuals can step up and change the game.
The last time the sides played, South Hobart came away with a comfortable 3-0 victory. There's another notch on the belt for a young Tasmanian cyclist. Riley Cowling was untouchable in today's All-Schools Mountain Bike Championships. The teenager is now eyeing off a national competition next month.
Riley Cowling has grown up on 2 wheels. A motocross rider from age 5, he took to mountain biking 2 years ago. Today, another big step in his young career, winning the state's mountain bike title against riders 2 years his senior.
The last lap was my let loose lap and just try and pull it as hard as I can really, but yeah, felt really strong.
He was up against nearly 100 opponents from 18 schools across the state. Cowling finishing the 20-kilometre course 35 seconds clear of his closest rival. With sponsors already behind him, Cowling has the national schools title coming up on the Gold Coast and big prospects beyond.
Really like to compete worlds and do some big stuff, hopefully get good on the road as well and follow in Richie Port's footsteps.
Today's event saw a bit of showmanship as 250 students took to the trails at Kate Reid Reserve.
Top guys are out here, they train and that sort of stuff, and they take it pretty seriously, but we've got a lot of kids that probably might be their first mountain bike race ever.
And, judging by the smiles, probably not their last. Tom Johnson, Southern Cross News.
The Launceston Tornadoes remain without a coach ahead of their biggest game of the season so far. Promising 19-year-old Ellie Collins says the playing group still doesn't know who will be in charge of the side when it hosts Bendigo tomorrow night. However, Collins is confident the team will pull together for the top-of-the-table clash.
I mean, at the moment, we've kind of got people taking training and different coaches on game day, but it'll be good to have stability back, but we're coping.
Tip-off is at 6:30 tomorrow night at Elfin Stadium.
Good evening. Well, North Melbourne Kangaroos take on the Adelaide Crows at Blunston Arena tomorrow. They're not favourites to win, but with support like this, how can they possibly lose? Hobart, Launceston and Devonport 16 today. Burnie a top of 17 degrees. The high was 19 at Eddystone Point. Liawenia low with -3. Flinders Island and Friendly Beaches 18. King Island, Wynyard, St Helens and Campania 17. Low Head and Strawn 16 today. Grove and Bushy Park 15 degrees. There is a weakening cold front with its band of cloud moving our way. It's currently south of the Bight, pushing cloud over us, the prefrontal cloud over our region and parts to our north. Upper level jet streams brought cloud to Queensland and southern WA. Most of the cloud today over the north and western districts. Tomorrow's chart, the cold front is just about with us, a trough extending north over South Australia. A high moves over the Bight with troughs over the west and east of the continent. The nor'westerlies will swing more westerly tomorrow at 20 to 30 knots and then southwesterly later, swells increasing to 3 metres. Strong wind warning is current for all Tasmanian coastal waters and a small craft wind alert is on for the lakes. Saturday and rain developing around the state. Hobart 18 degrees. Great football weather. Maydena rain and 14 the top for Oatlands with rain developing. Launceston wet 16 for Devonport, becoming windy as well. Wind easing but some rain or snow for Liawenia, top of 10. Burnie, rain, becoming windy, 16 the high, 15 for Strawn and Marrawar with some wet weather too. And for the east, the rain developing a bit later in the day, St Helens and Swansea 18, 17 the top for Orford. On Sunday, showers clearing from the north during the morning, hail possible over the western, central and southern areas. Showers on Monday gradually contracting to the south and fine on Tuesday apart from light showers over the far south clearing during the day. Further north and partly cloudy in Perth, Canberra and Brisbane. A morning shower forecast for Adelaide tomorrow, top of 19 degrees there. Showers developing for Melbourne and Cairns as well. It's cloudy in Hobart, 12 degrees, 13 right now in Launceston, Devonport cloudy and 15. Can't wait for the footy tomorrow, Joe. And what do you reckon of this? And it only cost me 2,000 baht.
We're not sure if you're B1 or B2. Thank you very much, Murph. You look fantastic. Well, from one comedy show to another. Fans of the hit bridge series Fawlty Towers will this weekend have the chance to be waited on by its characters. Basil, Sybil and Manuel preparing for their guests a final time before the Riversdale estate shows get underway.
No, tongs.
Basil, just hold on a minute, Audrey. Get the tongs, Basil. You can't put the fingers on. It's not hygienic.
No, not tongs, tongs.
The Melbourne-based theatre company Experience also allowing fans a little closure.
I think it is the interactiveness, and it is the fact that people have grown up with this and can actually ask Basil the things that they always wanted to ask him.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah.
The cast will perform several shows before flying back to Melbourne on Sunday. And that's all from the news team for this Friday, the 5th of May. Thanks so much for your company. We will see you throughout the evening with updates, but bye for now.